All right, Ben Salem, welcome to the Toxin Free podcast. I am so excited to have this conversation because you are the founder of WaveBlock, and my audience knows that I am so critical of any EMF blocking, shielding, modulating. I mean, they come up with all kinds of names for these things that they sell people, and I have always been very outspoken, a huge critic of them. But as my kids became teenagers and came home with AirPods because they had their own money and that's what they decided to spend them on, I did buy WaveBlock stickers. You're the one company that I say, hey, I actually think this is reputable. I've seen the data. So you have always been the one company that I was like, I believe with independent testing that I've seen that they do significantly reduce, our impact. But again, still very critical of the industry as a whole. But you have a new case that I have right here. I've been using it and I want to talk about it. But first I want to talk about EMFs in general, because you're kind of, ever since the pandemic, that has been your passion. So tell me a little bit about why you created WaveBlock and what it is about EMFs that got you to start a whole business.
Yeah, of course. Well, again, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much. It's funny. As a little kid, I was always inventing things. My mom and my grandma would always say, "What are you doing now?" Like at age 7, I would take apart the radio, I would take apart the TV, I would really take apart motorcycles and see if I could put them back together, if I can make them better, right? So I always had this engineer mind. Even in school, I was always daydreaming, thinking, how can I make something better? And I remember even as a little kid, I didn't like my toothbrush. I thought, why can't the toothpaste come out of the toothbrush? Why do I have to put the toothpaste on there? So I took a pen and I broke the edges off and I put toothpaste in there and I put the brushes at the end and I had like a push button that makes the toothpaste come out. So it's always like, well, how can I do this better? Is there something better? And the same thing happened when the pandemic hit. I couldn't build homes. I couldn't sell real estate, which is what I've always done. And my creative side stopped. And now we're sitting at home, we're bored, and living here in LA, they were tracking us on everything. You can't go to the beach. You can't go hiking. Nope. I went mountain biking and the helicopter came after me just for mountain biking, right? So now we're all locked up at home. My kids are on Zoom classes and they have their iPads over their laps. They're rocking the earbuds. And then my mind starts going into that daydreaming mode again, like as a little kid. Is this safe? How do these work? What's inside the earbuds? And I go deep into the rabbit hole. And I start learning that, wait a minute, Germany, Italy, Israel, France, China, all of these countries have banned Wi-Fi from nurseries and kindergartens. And then I got my mind thinking, well, what do they know that we don't know? Why? So now as you dig in deeper and deeper, you start learning, well, kids absorb up to 10 times the radiation as we do because their skulls are thinner, they're softer, they're smaller. So as I'm starting to put all the pieces together, I think, well, there has to be a way to reduce some of this radiation. So I purchased every single product that they sell online. And I actually this is my home office. I convert the whole home office into a Faraday cage. And every night I turn off the internet as well. And when everyone's down, I'm testing every single product I could find online.
Oh my gosh. Can you explain really quick what a Faraday cage is for people who are listening that have no idea what that word means?
Yes. So basically, imagine a controlled environment where no radiation can enter that room. So if your neighbor has her Wi-Fi or has her Bluetooth on, or someone's driving down the street, that cannot penetrate into this room. Imagine a room made out of concrete or lead or a bunker. So when you're testing something in here, you're testing only that signal and you don't have interference from the outside world. Because there's no other way to test it, because if you buy a radiation meter, you're going to get interference from the kids upstairs on their iPad or your speaker or whatever, right? So I wrapped the whole room in a Faraday cage material and I bought like directional radiation meters. I completely geeked out. I had a lot of time on mine.
Yeah, we all had a lot of time on our hands. I love that you used it for such a useful thing.
And it was fun. I bought everything that they sell, like a neutralizer's sticker, whatever that meant. It neutralizes your chemistry in your body. Okay, sure. These crazy stones and shungite and Russian stones and stickers made out of aluminum and stickers made out of copper. I bought and tested everything. And what was really scary was most did not work at all, but a lot of them actually amplified and increased the radiation. So what happens is, if you look at your phone, you have 5 different antennas randomly scattered behind your phone. You have 5 antennas. Okay? So you have there you go. So you have your Bluetooth, you have your LTE, you have your GPS, and so on. Every antenna does something else. So if you take a random piece of whatever, let's call it a copper sticker or silver sticker, and you randomly put it here, or you randomly put it here, and you hit one of those antennas, this is going to amplify the radiation and make the radiation stronger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I actually tell people those blocking devices, they're just redirecting stronger amounts to other places on your body. And so it's really scary that these products are out there and to the, in basic terms, unregulated. Nobody's out there verifying these claims. Nobody's out there saying, yes, these are safe. And in a lot of cases, like you're saying, the radiation impact is worse and you're just focusing it maybe to a different part of your body. But people are buying them thinking they're protecting themselves.
Yeah, it's scary because it's like, if you think of those old school TVs with the bunny ear antennas, remember those TVs?
Yes.
People
I am old enough to remember.
It's so scary. It's like putting foil on top of the antenna to amplify the signal. That's what you're doing on something that you're carrying in your pocket. So, after testing everything and nothing working, I couldn't solve it. Everything I created either blocked the radiation 100% and the product stopped working, or it amplified the radiation. So I was running into all these issues. Nothing was working. And then probably about like 6 months in, when I was at the beach with my family, I got in that daydreaming zone again. I get into this like weird daydreaming zone. I just kind of zone out. And I'm just thinking, wait a minute. If the wave hits my body right now, it has enough power to knock me over. But once the wave hits the sand, the power is broken in the sand, and I'm only getting the mist. So I thought, wait a minute. I wonder if I could do the same thing with light. Because light works like radiation, right? Like a flashlight. A light would work just like radiation. So I thought, I wonder if I could break the light, if I could break the radiation into particles just like the wave broke. When the wave hit the sand, the power broke and you only got the mist. Can I do the same thing? So I came home and I started powder coating. I mixed different kind of materials and started powder coating plastics. That's all I did. And I came into my little Faraday cage. I tested it here. And when it worked, I ran outside and called my wife and my kids. Guys, I figured it out. I figured it out at last. This is it. It works. This is amazing. I was so stoked.
Such a true inventor. I love it.
So much fun. So when I worked at home, we took it mountain biking, we took it snowboarding, and we proved that it really worked. And then I just Googled who's the largest, FCC lab in the world. Where does Apple go? Where does Samsung go? And let's go to those FCC labs, a real government mandated lab. And I set up an appointment. Lab is in San Diego, actually.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. And that's where they do most of our testing. So I went to that lab, and the engineer said to me, by the way, I do not let my kids rock the wireless earbuds.
Yeah.
He said, Ben, listen, you have 2.4 gigahertz, and they're wireless mode. It's like a wireless modem in each ear, and they're talking to each other through your kid's skull. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So what's that doing? It's on your skin, and to stay connected, they're talking to each other. And in a straight line, they could talk to each other at 1,200 feet. That's pretty gnarly, right? That's a lot of electricity. Interfering with your electricity in your own brain and interfering with your melatonin and so on and on. increasing your toxicity level, right? Doing so many different things in your body. So we tested it for 1 hour with the WaveBlock material and then 1 hour off. And the engineer said, whatever this is, go file the patent on this. This is amazing. Go. So I said, what do I do next? He said, well, you need to go do a SAR test. That's a whole nother level of testing. And that's a really awesome test because that actually tells you how much radiation gets absorbed into your human tissue. Okay? So let's back up, which is really crazy. The allowed amount to be absorbed into your body is 3/4 of an inch of radiation is allowed to penetrate into your body. That's how much is allowed. Now, those guidelines were created in 1996.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into the science. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's when I said, okay, well, let's test the SAR test here. We got the same results as well. And that's kind of how it started.
I love it. I love the ingenuity. I love the problem solving. And before we do dive into the science, I think the hardest part of this is the practicality of it. I think a lot of people like to preach avoidance, don't let your kids have AirPods, make sure they have the wired. And I absolutely advocate for more about avoidance as possible. But there's also reality. And it's, even when I'm talking about environmental toxins, you have to talk about things in the context of what is reality. Because the reality is my kids have their own money and they're going to go buy them, and me fighting with them every minute of every day is not good for our relationship, our health, or otherwise. And I'm not teaching them anything. And so having options and things to say, okay, if you understand the health implications and you still choose to have these, how can we decrease your exposure and support you? And I'm a big fan of grounding a lot and spending time outside and trying to just get away from it as much as possible. But I feel better knowing that when they are using it, there is something that is decreasing their exposure. And I just think that's something that gets lost in this conversation of black and white. So how do you do with your kids? You created this thing, you're excited about it. Were your kids like, heck yeah, give me all the protection?
Is actually we had fun with this. We tested it ourselves with a radiation meter, right? And said, look how much radiation is coming out of this. Now let's talk about radiation. So we make it fun.
Yeah.
Right? So because radiation is invisible, but if you can make it visible, then your mind starts to think about it, right? So, hey, what do we have to lose by reducing some of the radiation? What do we have to lose? So I think we just have fun. We have fun with it, but it's not going away. But we try to limit as much as we can around the house, right? Like the cell phones, we don't sleep with them. Certain things that we do to just reduce.
I have always had the logical information about EMFs and impacts, but it wasn't until I actually moved homes where I was in my mom's home for a little while, and I was sleeping in a room where I had insomnia for months. I mean, I literally could not figure out, why can't I sleep? Why am I up? And I remember calling my mom and being like, where's your Wi-Fi router? And she was like, oh, it's in the bedroom you're sleeping in. And I didn't know. That's where it was. It was behind a shelf or something. And I moved that thing so fast and I completely shut it off at night. I unplugged it from the wall so that it wasn't even plugged in. And I slept like a baby. And I think that was the first time that I realized how much I am physically impacted by EMF and by radiation. And it is hard to talk about the long-term health impacts, which we're going to do in a second. But I do think that there are people that just, if they paid attention to how they felt, that more people would realize how impacted we really are by these things.
It's funny when you start paying attention and you start listening to your body. Just try. Take your Apple Watch off for a couple weeks and let us know if you sleep better or not. I'm curious. Do your own due diligence and listen to your body.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that, much like the toxins regulation industry, which is kind of let's just put all these chemicals out into the world and we'll see what happens. And then if they end up being really bad, we might do something about it or we might not. Maybe it'll be 50 years before we figure it out. This industry is very much the same. Let's put up all this new technology. Let's create all these amazing inventions and this fast Wi-Fi and all of these things. And let's put it into the world. And let's just kind of worry about the ramifications after the fact. Why do you think that in places, and I was doing a bunch of research this week, even like Cyprus and Belgium and Israel and all of these countries are so far ahead of where we are, where they're saying we don't want this stuff in nurseries, in elementary schools, in public places of education. What is wrong with the United States that we just can't get it together and that we just seem to really not care?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, just like the red dyes. Only now you guys are waking up to the red dyes and the GMOs, right? I think they know it's like the secondhand smoke that no one's talking about. I think it's the same thing as secondhand smoke. Just because this is invisible, it's easier to get away with for longer.
Yeah.
I think it's sad, you know? I think it's sad. But the awareness, I could tell you something really fascinating. What I'm seeing today to what I'm seeing from 4 years ago, like when I started WaveBlock 4 years ago, people thought you're a little bit out of your mind. Like, really, you're a little bit out of your mind. And now everyone's talking about it. Everyone's thinking about it. And you're seeing this huge shift, which is such a good feeling because, oh my God, it's catching up. So I think that like the awareness is definitely spreading fast. And I think people are getting smarter. People are now listening to their own guts. They're not listening to the media as much. It's harder, I think, for the media to control people now, which is really nice.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that people are realizing the infiltration of industry in, our government and our regulatory agencies. And I think they're being much more discerning of what they listen to and how they listen to it. And I think it's a good thing. I think the public awareness, because ultimately public awareness, and then that leads to public demand, is how we change things.
Yes. And how nice is that? I'm happy it's happening.
All right, let's dive into the science a little bit. I taught a very, very basic level course on EMF. I have a lot of students that learn about toxins regulation from me, and they said, can you give us an unbiased view of the research on EMF? And it was for the perspective of legislation and regulation, because I'm a lobbyist, and that's the world that I know and understand as an attorney. And so I went diving pretty deep into what are our regulations based off of? What is the safety? What are the safety studies that are out there? I followed Nick, the EMF guy. I did a big deep dive on all of his information in his webinars. And what I found was the FCC and the policies that we have are based on very, very old science. And more recently, the update to that guidance basically was just a rubber stamp that said, well, everything we said in 1996 is still true. So we're just not going to do anything about it. And I'm not shocked by a lot of things, but truly, like I've seen it all in the industry and regulatory agencies. This actually kind of shocked me because the EU has way better data, way better reports out there. They have a full 5G report that is open source and open to the public, and yet it seems like the government just chose to ignore it. So what I found was 1,800 studies roughly from 1996 to now, and 80% of them show significant harm or some kind of biological interference, some kind of impacts for mitochondria, all the way to cancer growth. So there is this huge body of evidence that exists that EMFs significantly are impacting our health, and our government has just basically said, we're just going to ignore that. So if we're using data from the 90s, how are we supposed to protect people now?
Yeah. But let's talk about the data from the 90s. What does it really say? I think once you learn that, it'll help you solve it. So in 1996, they tested a phone, the old school phones, on a 220-pound male Marine. So imagine how big his head is and how big his skull is compared to a kid or a female, right? Just totally different game, right? so much more thick. And they said that this person's going to only use their phone for about 6 minutes a day. That's it. But that phone only had 2 antennas in that phone, not 5 antennas. And the bandwidth was very different, right? A totally different bandwidth than what we have today. So the iPads were never tested and were never meant to be on the kid's lap, or if you're pregnant and you have the iPad over your tummy when you're reading at night or so on. It was not tested on a tummy. It was not tested on the lap. It was tested to be a tablet on your table. That's it. Earbuds never tested either. So, everything's changed, right? You have 5G, you have 2G, you have 2.4. And what's really fascinating is that your Bluetooth is equally as strong as your Wi-Fi in your home. Yeah, your Bluetooth is one of the strongest signals. The Bluetooth that you and I grew up on that went 30 feet, it's not that one anymore. This is Bluetooth like 5.0, Bluetooth on steroids. It goes through walls. It could go almost 2,000 feet.
Hold on as I check to see if my Bluetooth, because that's something that people just mindlessly leave on. Oh yeah, see, mine's on. Oh man. And for no reason, I'm not using it. It's just on.
So think about this. Everyone gets scared of 5G. Oh my God, there's 5G. It's so scary, so powerful. 5G shoots really quick, short bursts. It can't go far. Really, really, really fast, really short bursts. It cannot penetrate. It can't even penetrate your skin. It's surface level. Okay?
I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah, and that's what people need to understand. So you have your Bluetooth or your 2.4Gs or your 3G. That could go in a straight line through walls, and it could go a couple thousand feet. So think of 5G like a BB gun and everything else like a sniper that could go through trees, go through leaves, go through walls.
Okay, hold on. Are you saying 3G and 4G and your Bluetooth are way more harmful to your health than 5G?
Not only way more harmful, let's really break it down. All right, we're going to geek out here a little bit.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. If you take 2G, 3G, 4G, and your Bluetooth, and you have your phone on your skin, in your pocket, and it's downloading music, or it's downloading a video, or a phone call is coming in, that's penetrating into your body approximately 3/4 of an inch when it's touching your body. Okay? If it's 2 feet away, 3 feet away, it's almost at zero because the waves open up. So the proximity is the key, right? It really is the key, but it's still strong. So if you're 3 feet away, it's going to penetrate the body maybe 1/8 of an inch, 3 feet away, right? So the key is when you sleep, if you want to be at 100%, put it 15 feet away. Everything 15 feet away, the waves have already opened. They've opened up. They're not shooting straight anymore.
It makes me think of, because I teach a lot on dirty electricity, and I talk a lot about flicker and the way that those like longer wavelengths are way more impactful than the shorter wavelengths. And this is all things that I personally think should be taught in school. Like we should all understand this, but we don't. So, wow. Okay. So 15 feet away. So if somebody put their phone on the other side of their bedroom, so they could still have like their alarm on. I hear that a lot. People are like, I need it for my alarm. Or if you're somebody like me, I sleep with white noise. So I use my Spotify app, but I don't charge my phone at night, and it's clear on the other side of my room. It's probably more than 15 feet away. It's probably exactly like 12 to 15 feet away, I would say. That is about as protective from a distance perspective as you can get.
Even at 10 feet, you're good. I'll give you an example. I have a friend, and her husband, they have not been sleeping good at all. So I said, let me come out and just test some things in the house. We took the radiation meter, we put it on their bed. It was red line, the middle of the bed, just red line, red line, red line. And at the end of the bed, it was borderline red line. Not as bad, but still pretty scary. So we looked on the other side of their wall. They had their electric meter, right? That's shooting signal. That was on her side. On his side, they had the solar box, the Tesla solar box, right? So I said, you know what? Move rooms. Or let's move all of these, but let's just move rooms, or we're gonna coat this whole wall with a special paint and ground it. I said, let's see what happens after a month. Everything changed. Their whole life changed. That's how much these things really affect you. And the same thing with the kids' room. Like if you have a camera right over the baby's crib, or you have the Nest smoke detector right above their head, that Nest smoke detector has the most powerful antenna.
Yeah. It's really difficult in the age of smart appliances and smart homes. I'm that person that's like, I want all the dumb stuff. I don't want I don't want robots telling me, or like I don't want to tell, like I don't want anything smart in my house because I'm aware of all of the EMFs and I just don't want any of it. But because that is what is being pushed on us as like the future, it's actually really hard to find things like appliances and things like that that are not smart. You have to really look for it and ask for it.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, we don't need that in our vacuum.
Well, let's think about what's in our house, right? Everyone has the Ring. So how bad is the Ring system? The like camera, front door, what is that running on?
So that's going to run on 2.4 Gs, but as long as it's like 10, 15 feet away from you, it's okay.
Okay.
But or I personally like to hardwire everything. Why not just hardwire it all? Just hardwire everything.
I like to work off wired internet, but other people don't appreciate that. It's like, okay, so let's talk about smart meters, because one of the things that I do tell people that they can do is they can call their electric company and they can ask for it to opt out and have the analog. And as long as that's still, as far as I know, electric companies will still do that. And that I have read will significantly decrease the amount of radiation EMFs that are being put off because those smart meters are very strong. Yeah, that is true. Okay. So let's talk about some crazy things people do and something that makes me cringe that you actually might be supportive of, but people are using lead-based paint to paint their walls and to do all of that. And the environmental lawyer in me wants to cry. And I understand why people are doing it, but it's right. You're creating another potential hazard if there's anything wrong with that coating. So you mentioned there is special paints. Is that what you're talking about? Lead-based paints?
Though, yeah, the only way, there's a couple of proper ways to do it. You do not want to use that lead-based paint for so many different reasons, especially if you have children in the home and a piece chips away and the kid puts it in their mouth. And who knows, the key is to get the toxins out of the house. Who knows, right? DOC, what kind of stuff's going to come out of that. But they sell a very expensive, basically it's charcoal. When you take charcoal powder, and you mix it with your paint, okay, the charcoal creates a barrier that doesn't allow the radiation through. But hold on, if you don't do it correctly, and even most people don't even do the lead paint correctly, it will actually create the biggest antenna. It will actually create an antenna. So this is how you're supposed to really do it. You're supposed to take a piece of wire and you run the wire through the entire wall. And that wire, you run the wire into your ground, only into your ground. And then you coat the wall. Now you created a ground and the radiation will not go through. That's how, if a submarine that doesn't want to get tracked, an airplane that doesn't want to get tracked, that's how they do it.
Wow. So how do you feel about grounding devices or grounding sheets? Because I've always been of the opinion that they probably also, like if you're plugging something into your grounding unit, one, can you really know that you're protecting yourself? Two, I haven't seen good science to support any of those technologies, but you're an expert. Do you support grounding sheets, grounding devices?
I think it's tricky because you have to. Okay, let's break it down in a simple way. So many people have these fancy beds that cool the bed and heat the bed, or they have radiation nearby, right? All these devices have serious amount of radiation, like a serious. Depending on the antenna that you have nearby, you need either, I'm going to explain this in a really simple way. Imagine you have a cloth. Imagine you have a cloth. The cloth either has big boxes or really, really, really small boxes. Okay? The 5G is going to be very different signal than the 2Gs. So you have to have the perfect amount of spacing to block the radiation, to block it 100%, right? We can't use this on a cell phone because then your cell phone will stop working. But the right way to do it is to have a certain cloth that's also grounded and made out of a material that could block radiation. If you're just going to just ground it by itself, you might reduce like 5% of the radiation, if that. It's not going to really do anything. There's no science behind it because it's being done wrong. So funny, for fun 10 years ago, I created a baby crib bumper around my baby's crib before I was in this world. Like, no, just for me and my son. And that's how I figured that out. All I did was take polyester and silver cloth, and I took it to the dry cleaners, and I said, can you help me sew this together? And it worked perfectly. And that's really the only way that it's really going to work.
Oh, it's so fascinating. Yeah, I tell people those are a waste of money. I'm like, I haven't seen anything to make me believe that they're helpful whatsoever. I'm also somebody who, like, you feel how you feel, and if it helps you, great. Like, the mind is a very strong thing. Okay, so let's go from your stickers, which is what you have sold for years, and what I up until recently, my son lost his AirPods, thank God, and didn't have the money to buy new ones, so he's wearing wired. So we don't have stickers on those, but hopefully he'll stick with those. But we did have the stickers on our phones. And I just recently got your case. So I have to tell you, I follow a lot of people who are in the EMF world, some of the leading people who are so critical of these cases and these claims that it actually decreases radiation or harmonizes or whatever BS they're selling somebody. And I've seen these same people praise this case. That was a big eye-opening thing for me, where I was like, wow, these people who are really critical are saying, no, this is legit. And so I went deep diving on all of your independent research. I got the case. And how is the case different than the stickers?
Okay, got it. So the case has a sticker built inside as well. And if you look at your sticker, if you were to take your sticker and you were to shine a flashlight at the sticker, you're going to see your light disperse and break into particles. Just like the wave theory that I gave you earlier. It does exactly the same thing. It breaks it into particles. That's it. So that sticker is embedded inside the cell phone case. But then, after I embedded that in, I thought, how do I reduce some of the heat? The heat from the phone is annoying me. So I thought, they make breathable clothes, right, for like athletes. Why can I not invent a breathable felt? So I started poking holes in the felt and filed a patent on it. And then we created this special felt that reduces the heat. So that's really the only difference. It reduces the heat and the radiation.
Oh my gosh, that's it? It's that simple? So I saw this reduces radiation by 80%. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so it depends on the phone model. Some it will reduce a little bit more, some a little bit less, because it depends on just the locations, right? Sometimes on some phones, they put it just on the edge, so I can't block or reduce some of that radiation. So on some of them, it will be like 83% or 78%. But yeah, it does reduce. And the fascinating thing about all this, which I never saw coming, and I never knew people have EMF sensitivity or issues with I never knew any of this. This was not my mind was never there. But the amount of feedback that we get is just nuts. Like, we discovered mold in our air conditioning duct. And the guy that came here, my wife gave him the cell phone case. And a month later, he tells my wife, I no longer have pain in like my growing area. Because I always drive with the phone like underneath there. And he goes, all the pain's gone. I've been trying to figure it out for years. What is this? Then my wife goes to purchase a chandelier at the lighting store. And this older man that she gave a cell phone case to, also about a month later, I no longer have pain in my leg. I've always had pain in my leg and doctors couldn't figure it out. We hear these stories all the time. So it's been really a crazy trip.
Well, and I feel like it's so simple. Like, the biggest issue is that the things that actually work, like you said, completely blocks everything. And when you completely block, it doesn't work. Your cell phone doesn't work. So that's fine if you want to like put your phone in a Faraday cage or like in a case that completely blocks it and like have none at night. But then people like me where I'm like, well, if my kid's out late or I want my phone to ring, if there's want the convenience of being accessible. So I don't want my phone to be unworkable. I want it to be on. And so something so simple that I can put on my phone, it seems too simple to me. Like I can decrease by, I have a 15 Pro Max, roughly 80%. That is huge. And you're just basically diffusing the radiation particles. Like I kind of think of it, like you said, like waves crashing. I'm so glad you said that because now I have this image in my head of like waves dispersing on the sand that you're not getting rid of it completely, but you are making sure that you're getting less of it. Like that's incredible. And it's so simple.
Yeah, it really is actually really simple.
So what is in those like harmonizing devices? You said that you like tried a bunch of them. Is that all just woo woo and it's all just kind of make believe stuff? I know people who wear the Shanghai, I don't know what it is, but that wear all of that and they swear by it. Is that all just placebo effect?
There's no science behind it. If you test them, you could test them yourself or in a lab. It doesn't reduce the radiation. It doesn't. I don't know if it really harmonizes or neutralizes the acid in your body. I don't know how that would really work. But I mean, to ask 20 people to try it and then they'll go, oh, I think it's working. Yeah, I think it's working. It's like, okay.
Right. It's like the grounding sheets for me. I'm like, I mean, if you like them, go for it. So you are such an inventor. I'm curious, what are you working on now? What is that brain of yours dreaming up?
You know what? I'm trying to launch 2 new products for the holidays. One is I'm trying to make radiation visible. So no one's ever been able to see what radiation looks like around you. So my goal is to invent a product that will show you the radiation around you right now, how deep it penetrates into your body and how far it is from you. So I've been working on this for 3 years. I'm 80% there. I can't solve it. And then about 2 months ago, I'm in an elevator at Dave Asprey's biohacking conference. And there's a group of people in the elevator. And we started talking. One of the guys is a RF engineer for Tesla. And I said, you're the person I'm looking for. I am stuck. I can't solve this. I said, can we all go to dinner, all of us right now? So he's been trying to help me solve this. And I'm almost there. So my goal is to launch that before the holidays.
Nothing like putting your creativity on a timeline. Can we side note the Tesla thing for a second? I get so sick, like physically ill when I sit in a Tesla. And I have been told it's because of the significant amount of EMF technology and electronics that are in those cars. Does that jive with what you know of EMFs? Like I get physically ill. I get nauseous. And it's not motion sickness. Like I get physically ill sitting in a Tesla.
Yeah. So what's happening is the batteries are right underneath the seat. Right? So when the car is idling, the radiation is really low. Like really low. It won't even come up. It won't even test. But once you start driving and if the electricity is going through like this, It's like having like a little nuclear device underneath your seat all the time. And remember, we talked about like distance is your friend. There's no distance there.
Wow. I feel validated. Thank you. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. And it's not, it's not political. I don't have a problem with, electric. I'm an environmental lawyer. I want to find solutions to our petroleum problem. Like, that's not it. I just really can't physically sit in a Tesla. So,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So you're coming up with a way to make radiation visible. If it's visible and people can see it, they will understand it more and they will have to acknowledge it. I think that's amazing. What else?
My key is not about you and I. It's about our kids. I want our kids to see this because I want to protect them. They're the ones growing. I want it to stick in their head, right? Because they've been around us so much longer than we have. So once they see it, it's going to scare them, and that's when they're going to really think twice, do I want to stick with this thing or not?
As a mom of 2 teenagers, it's genius. Thank you for that. What else? Got anything else up your sleeve? You said you were working on two things.
I'm working on a solution for the Apple Watch, which has been really hard. All devices that you wear, rings, Apple Watches, they actually interfere with how your body makes melatonin. So it actually reduces the amount of melatonin that your body makes, because when you have radiation going into your wrist, it confuses your body to think that it's daylight. So now your body stops producing melatonin. The other thing it does is the electricity also affects your body has electricity too. So it starts to affect your hormones, your testosterone. The signals are not clear anymore because you have the electricity coming in through another source. It's clouding that. It also creates inflammation, right, in your cells. Imagine your cells have a little door. That door opens, calcium starts to come in, your inflammation comes. Your toxic overload just builds and builds and builds. Once that cup overflows, you're in trouble, right? You're around toxic all the time. It could be mold, it could be fires, it could be your carpet. And once that cup overflows, you're in trouble, right? So I think the key is everyone loves their Apple Watch. Let's continue wearing those Apple Watches, but let's just make them a little bit safer. Can we make them 80% safer? That's my goal. So I'm trying to solve that too. That's been hard.
Okay. Well, because it's like directly on your skin. I can imagine that diffusing it. How would you do that when there's no distance to have the diffusion happen?
That's what I'm trying to solve. It's been hell, but I'm going to solve it. My goal is this year.
I have faith. I have faith in you. I think that's amazing. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. I know that everyone listening to this is going to learn so much, and the fact that you have something that is so simple that everyone can do, and you're also not telling people you need to completely change your lifestyle or you need to completely get rid of all of your technology. You've given us a very simple thing to do that can improve our health, and I know I appreciate it. I know my audience is going to appreciate it. I've been an affiliate of yours for years. Like I said, the only one. There's no other technology company that I have ever worked with. It has only always been WaveBlock. So I have an affiliate link and a discount code in the show notes. But will you come back when you solve? I want everyone to hear straight from you when you finally solve those 2 problems.
Yes, let's do a goal. November 1st, we have to get it done.
That's soon, November 1st. Okay? I have faith in you, Ben. I have faith in you.
Thank you for everything. I really appreciate you.
All right, take care.